Zoom recording. Okay, here we are. Okay. Wow. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to week 2 of our really fast summer. It's going by like a whirlwind already, but I just want to say I've looked at I've looked at the work that you've done, up to this point, which it's not a lot, but it's enough for me to begin gauging things. Um, with your assignment number 1, and while your evidence work is the most important as far as getting your licensure is concerned, your other assignments to me are equally important because they integrate themselves with the concepts that we're working with, this semester. So I would encourage you, while there were some that were, off the top. You just blew it off the top, and I could tell that you put a lot of thought and a lot of energy into it. But then some, I think you could have done better. And I want the best from you. And I know you're tired. I know you've had a lot on you, but many of you won't even know what I'm talking about. But if you ever, I didn't grow up on a farm, but I had to work on a farm when I was a young guy, because that's the only jobs you could get. Brought tobacco and worked in the fields until I could get me a job at a grocery store. But it reminds me of the days when we had to crop tobacco on foot, and I just remember you'd be so tired at the end of the day, but you had to crop to the end of the road, or you have to plow to the end of the road. So just remember that you can see the end of the road. Don't stop in the middle of the road and give up. You're too close. And you're going to hear this every week. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to push you. I'm going to give you candid feedback if I don't think something's the caliber that I think it should be of a graduate student. You already got a master's degree, and you're working on on licensure. You want to be principals. Your goal is to be a principal, or you wouldn't be in the program. So give me the quality work that I know that you're capable of doing, and something that's going to represent your name well. I'll tell you this, and then I'll move on. Tell you one of my old war stories. I've told my 2 sons, especially my younger one. He just turned 30 years old. I told him, I said, son, I said, forever and ever, for the rest of your life, I said, you will carry my last name. I said, you represent my last name well wherever you go. So just remember that the work you do is going to follow you, and it's going to represent you, and your name will be attached to that. So when you submit something to the administrator that you'll probably start out as an assistant principal, but your administrator, if it's not, if it's full of grammar issues, or it's not well written, guess what? Some flags, or some question marks are going to come up. Some red flags are going to come up, and they're going to begin to say, can I trust this person to take the lead of this? And I don't have time to micromanage and things like that. All I'm going to say is that I won't beat this horse anymore. Give me the best that you can be. Now, everybody, I will say, you can have a PhD and whatever, and grammar may not be your thing. If it's not your thing, guess what? You find somebody that's close to you that you don't mind saying, look, give this a good read before I turn it in, because I want to give it my best. Don't turn it in if you know that it's not your best. Represent your name well. And you need to begin now. Just pretend I'm your superintendent. And what you turn into me is going to determine whether, as I think about it, whether I want to consider this person, down the road for for promotions and things of that nature, those kinds of things can stand in your way. So, always give it your best. And I'll move on from that. Comments about assignment 1. Again, I think some of you could have done better. One of the things you're going to learn about 605, and I made this comment on several with the feedback that I gave you. You'll find that 605 is a lot of self-reflection. You've done all of this in 601, you've done all this in 603. Now it's time. This is where the rubber meets the road. You are going to begin to find yourself and who you are as an aspiring administrator. The reading that you've already done, I think you have found that all of it alludes itself to the role of a leader, the leadership role. Everything you do is going to point out your role as a leader, and it's going to, a lot of the activities that you're going to do is going to lend itself to helping you identify your strengths as a leader, those areas that you are not as strong in, that you need to work on. You have to know what they are to be able to work on them. And when you know what they are as a leader, you find ways of making sure that those areas don't go lacking. As an administrator, you build yourself, even when there's things that to this day that I know that I'm not good at after all these years. But guess what? I always surround myself with great people. Great people will help fill the gap in those areas that you are not the strongest in. You've got to find those people. That's part of the qualities, one of the qualities of being, a great leader. So, start now. Find somebody else to help you, before you turn it in. And I'm going to read everything. I'm going to scrutinize it, and I'm going to give you candid comments. I would not be fair to you if I didn't. If I had graded some of the work based on some grammar and things, some of you wouldn't have gotten the grades that you got. However, I did not let that be my criteria this time. I simply looked at the content and what you had written, what you've written. However, I've told you now what I'm looking for. So down the road, I might be a little more critical. Is that fair since I've told you? It's fair. Now you know what I'm looking for, right? Everybody shake their head. Yeah. I got it, Dr. Stebbins. Okay. We'll move on from that. Want to look at, I'm not, let's talk about briefly, I'm going to skip around and you can find your agenda under session 2 as well. I'm looking at it on my end. I just made me a copy of it. I'm going to start going over the review of your weekly assignments in just a moment, but I want to talk about, what is due this week. I had a talk with someone today, and I've emailed a couple of people back and forth. The way this was set up is a little bit differently than what you did in 601 and 603, but and it's because of the quick turnaround. Just be reminded, and several of you, I've had several, Dr. Revis, that have already turned in CAP task 1 and did an amazing job on it, an amazing job. So I know that, that what we talked about last week, it did what I wanted it to do. And if you'll follow the examples and the information that I've given you, you should have no problems. And we'll go back to that in just a few minutes. But this week, just remember, your assignment 2 that I'm going to go over is due by Sunday, but you don't have to wait until Sunday. There's some things that you can go ahead and knock out and get it out of your way. You must do 1 peer review on task 1 of the CAP. Now, there are 2 places, and I didn't know this until it was brought to my attention today. Don't get confused. For some reason, it was put in 2 places. the discussion board for CAP task review, that's where you can put your task one for your peer reviews, and follow the same template that you followed when you were doing 601 and 603. Someone said that it shows up as a blank form in there. It's the same form that you've always used, so that there shouldn't be a problem with you know what to use. It's the same format, and you only do one. And then if you go to your CAP course assessments, you'll see that it also has a place for you to put your peer review. Well, I'm going to come back. Whoever I talked to today, I told you wrong. I just realized it. This is where you put it for your class, for your peer to be able to look at it. This is where you put it for me to give you a grade. When I looked at it, this is for, and I'm going to look at this as well, but this is where you submit it for me to give you a final grade. So you go here for your peer to look at it, and I'll get the same information they get. But then you put the same thing here, submit it here for me to give you your grade. Okay, I didn't catch that when I talked to the person earlier today. Are there any questions about what you've got to do with the peer review then? And then remember, task one at the latest is due to me by Sunday evening. Try to go ahead and get that in and knock it out. Now, what you will find is that remember in the past, you always had, you turned in a task for evaluation, but you also had a task for review at the same time. That really works the same way, except we just don't have the 2 weeks to do that turnaround time in. So what I would suggest that you do, you go ahead. If you want good feedback, you don't need to wait until the last minute for me to see the next task. You need to get it in for discussion board as soon as you can, even though, like I said, task one is due this week. I really should be able to see task two in review also by the end of the week as much as possible, in order to be able to give you the feedback that you need so that you can get it corrected and move on next week. So try your best. When you turn in one for a final grade, also turn in the next one as much as you can for us to be able to review so you can move on. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to come back. I'll come back to assignments. Man, I didn't get time last week to spend time like I wanted to on your assignments. And I'm going to pull that up. And they're labeled assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment up to assignment 11. There's one assignment per week, and you'll find that one of them is in the wrong order, and I have gone in there and tried to fix it. I can't fix it. It keeps going back to the same thing. So when you get to those 2 assignments, just know it's by the number. Whatever the number is, it should coincide with that week. Assignment 1 is over with. Everybody has turned their work in. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can talk. Assignment 2, which is I've gotten some of this assignment in already, but this all comes from the reading. And remember, you only have 3 books. This was a question I resolved this week as well. You only have 3 books, and with the Strength Finders book, remember I told you you needed a new book, and the back of it, you should be able to have that special code in the back of it where you can be able to do your assessment when that time comes. So make sure you've got a new book and that's all you need. There's not anything else that you'll need for that except the book with the new code in the back of it.
Can you show the front of that book?
Do what now?
Can you show the front of that book?
Yeah, let me move this over so you can. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. And That I don't know why that has been an issue every semester, Dr. Revens. I don't know why, and I think it's because for some reason the bookstore doesn't have it, but it's required on our list, and it's an assignment that they have to do. And we'll talk about in a few minutes. But
I'm sorry. I just want to. So on the paperwork, it says strength-based leadership, and it says Strength Finder as two separate books.
well, it's strengths-based leadership, and if you look at the top of it, it says Strength Finder 2.0. That's what it's referring to. It's all in the same book.
Okay.
Okay. You only need one book. It's the Strength Finder 2.0, Strengths-Based Leadership. That's all you need. Okay. Does that clear that up for everybody? Let's look at assignment 2. This comes from the Basic Guide to Supervision, the Glickman book. There are many big ideas presented by the authors in the opening 3 chapters of Glickman, and that's part of your weekly reading. They are supervision and moral purpose, factors that describe the schools of the present, and visions of effective schools. You're to, after reading the chapters, you're to pick one of those 3 topics that resonate with you based on your personal experience, and briefly describe your experience and tell how it relates to the text reading. Now, when I say briefly, it's not a paragraph. I need a good page. It may go into a page and a half, may go into 2 pages, but just, make sure that it's quality and it covers what it needs to cover. So spend enough time on that and give me something good from that based on your personal experience. Assignment number 3, this is the first time you come together as a Zoom team. And you know who your Zoom teams are. That has not changed from last semester, minus a student in one of the groups. But assignment number 3, this is your case study 1. You know what to do. You read your case study, and these are your directions. You read the case study and write a 1-paragraph response for each of the questions from the case study. That is for you, not for me. That's for you, those responses, because you're going to use them as you have done in the past. Your group's going to have a Zoom somebody that handles the Zoom session. The Zoom master schedules, sends out the link, and records the case study as you have done in the past. During the case study Zoom session, each team member, as you've done in the past, shares your written responses, and then the group engages in a scholarly discussion in response to you did a lot of this in 603. So how you did it in 601, I should see major transformation in what you're discussing and what you're talking about in 605. I'm going to listen and look for a lot of the things that you would have learned in 601, and especially the things that you were taught in 603 as it relates to policy, procedures, and law, those kinds of things. So, I want to hear that kind of language whenever you are doing your Zoom groups. And then when you get through, you're going to have a Zoom link, and then you're going to write a 1-page, which has 2 parts, reflective summary of both the case study and the case study Zoom session. Now, I don't want a regurgitation of what I've read. If I want to, I can read it there. I just want you to summarize what this was about. And, you can put some of the language of what you've learned, in that as well as you're doing that reflection. And then I want a written response about the experience, the whole experience and what you learned from it. Again, this is just a 1-page or 2-part. And so what you will submit for a grade is this 1-page, 2-part, and then the Zoom link that the group will have the same Zoom link that your Zoom master will send, and then I will review that and give you feedback on it. Any questions about what you've got to do with your case study? You will have 3 case studies. This is case study number one which is due week 3. So you need to go ahead after tonight. You need to go ahead and make plans whenever you're going to do that, because you know that it's coming up. Assignment 4. This is from your Glickman textbook, chapter from Glickman chapter 6. You're to explain the concept of something called the Johari window. You're going to love this, and why it would be important for a school leader to, and notice it's in parentheses, know thyself. Why is it important as a school leader to know thyself? You're going to learn it from this experience. Please observe confidentiality, but you're to cite an example of, and look at the big word, cognitive dissonance in a leader from your experience. Stumped? You might review the list of supervisory behaviors that you find in this book on pages 90, 91. Now, if you go to week 4 in Blackboard and you click on week 4, you're going to find all kinds of resources that I have embedded in there on the Johari window. They're not a part of this particular assignment. However, you can include as much of that in what you turn in for a grade as you want to. I put a video in there. Watch it. It explains it well. I put an activity that you can use with a group of your peers at some point. There's just some good stuff in there. Go back and look at all that stuff that I put in there on the Johari window and let it help you as you are completing your responsibilities for assignment 4. Assignment 5, and that is an independent assignment. Assignment 5, again, from the Glickman chapter 9. Notice we alluded in assignment 4 to the supervisory behaviors. And in assignment 5 from the Glickman chapter 9, you're to write a 1-page response identifying your strengths and weaknesses based on the supervisory behavior continuum that you're going to read about in chapter 9. Again, remember, this is a self-reflection, and you're going to begin in everything to learn more about yourself. In assignment 6 from the Nordhaus book, chapter 10, let's assume that you will be chosen to lead a school one day. You wouldn't be in this program if that assumption was not going to be a reality. What is servant leadership? How will you apply your knowledge of it to your leadership style? A lot of thought needs to go into this. This is some good reading. And I will tell you, other people recognize that. Dr. Revis, we got our evaluations this week. And that was one of the responses from my evaluator, from Dr. Lamb. He actually was the one that evaluated me for all of my performance through the year. And I was honored by his remarks, but he said that Dr. Stedman has proven himself to be a servant leader in working with the students. So, it's an honor. That's an honor to come from Dale Lamb, to be called a servant leader. So, what, and we're going to talk more about that after you get to this assignment. What is a servant leader? Because that's who you want to be. You want to be a servant leader, but what is it all about? Okay, assignment 7. That's your second case study. You know what to do with it. Assignment 8. I'll come back because these are the two that's mixed up. Assignment 8. This is your work on the strengths-based leadership assignment from this book. Everything comes from this book. That's why you're going to hear me tonight say, begin reading this book. Begin reading this book immediately. Begin underlining, taking notes, putting sticky notes in there. Just do whatever you have to with it. But this is going to help you when you click on and strength-based leadership assignment. It's going to open it up, and What you're going to find here is everything that you've got to do personally, and then what you've got to do as a team. Each student's going to be required to read this book in its entirety, and then the following list of questions or prompts must be responded to narratively by each one of you. You're going to write your responses. You're going to submit those to me for grade, but you're going to also use them, or you're going to use them when you come together as a Zoom team and you have your scholarly discussion about the reading of this book. I'm not going to go through all of these, but just like for number one, respond. Discuss the differences between a leader and a manager, citing valid research and discussion. In other words, what does the research have to say? I don't want to know, Penny, let me use you an example. I don't want to know what Penny thinks. I want to know, what does the research say is the differences between a leader and a manager? So you got to do a little bit of digging. You've already done a little bit of that, but what does the research say? And again, I'm not looking for a dissertation. I'm looking for, some good solid research, kind of like when you were doing your APSO and your APTEL and you had to do that literature review. It's a small section on a discussion on leadership versus management. Number two, if you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. What does that mean? You're to reflect on that. What does it mean? Now, you've got to do some soul searching with some of these. Respond. While he has spent much of his career in a leadership role, the vast majority of a boss's efforts, and let me move this out of the way. Here it is. Let me minimize that. The vast majority of a boss's efforts have been focused on trying to mimic traits of leadership he has known or read about. Again, I want some thought into that. What you're going to do with every one of these, you're going to respond to them based on your reading, your research, what you think, and then this is what you're going to do. This activity is going to culminate in a Socratic seminar approach, with all of you being required to share equally in the scholarly discussion. Included in this discussion will be the responses to items 1 through 9 above. You're going to talk about it. Again, you're going to have to decide a Zoom leader for this group, and the Zoom leader will take the lead on this activity. There's enough Zoom activities this semester that everybody should have at least one opportunity to lead, and some of you will have to do more than one time. And then the second half of this text includes additional resources for connecting with and identifying with your strengths as a leader. These pages include specific information for understanding the full focus of this activity. Now, at the end of the text, you will find a packet of information. That's where I told you that you had to have a new book that will provide you the necessary tools for completing this activity. You will need to purchase a new textbook. You should also share your results of this activity with your team. So you will have to have completed your activity prior to your Zoom meeting, because you're going to talk about your specific results with your team. So you're going to work with your Zoom team to culminate this activity in the Socratic seminar. You're going to choose a Zoom master who will lead the activity and record and upload the video. Then you're going to be responsible for submitting the following as a final grade: your personal responses to the 9 key prompt quotes from the textbook reading, the video link for collaborative Socratic discussion, the Strength Finder personal results, and then your reflection of the Strength Finder results. After you get it, because it's about you, you got to reflect on it, and I want you to talk about actually, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Okay. Let me come back. come out of this. Okay, now let me go back to assignment. That was 8. Okay, 8. Let's go back to assignment 9. That's your case study. That's your last case study. And then assignment 10. This will be, Dr. Lamb will have this class. That's this whole class. And Dr. Lamb is going to give you some research and evidence-based information about how to be prepared for an interview as you're beginning to move into the interview realm to become an administrator. And what you will have to do after that class that night, I will be looking, you will be responsible for attendance to this session and providing a one-page reflection of this presentation experience. I'll be looking for specific language that will let me know that you were in attendance. Dr. Lamb's going to, it will be a power-packed evening with Dr. Lamb that evening. And the final activity, this is week 11. This is our last week. This is your digital competencies team presentations, and Dr. Revis is going to assist me and take the lead with this activity with you. So she will, at some point after today, she will be speaking with you later on in the semester, specifically about this assignment, and she'll be monitoring some things along the way with it. This is the assignment. Your principal has asked you to create a PLC for your school to address recent North Carolina teacher working condition survey data, your North Carolina report card data, and advanced ed data. You know, any of those things that's going to talk about your school, results from your school. Each class member, each of you, and this is, you're working with your Zoom teams. Each Zoom team's going to be assigned to, and you'll see them listed down here, North Carolina Digital Learning Competencies for School Administrators. There are 5 of them. Okay. Zoom Team 1, and you should know who you are. Zoom Team 1, you're going to be responsible for vision and strategy. Zoom Team 2, you're going to be responsible for content and instruction. Zoom Team 3, you're going to be responsible for human capacity and culture. And Zoom Team 4, I am including 4 and 5 for you. You're a larger group and you're going to be able to handle both of these in your presentation. Personal growth and connectedness and community. Now, this is what you've got to do. Your assignment is to discuss, brainstorm, analyze all the data, and make recommendations to the school improvement team on strategies for using the 5 North Carolina digital competencies to make improvements, gains in your school. Your presentation will be your presentation to the PLC, but Dr. Revis and I will be the PLC and your classmates as your peers as you present. The presentation is to be, and it says 25 minutes. You know, I just want a great presentation, and can involve any medium that you choose. These presentations will be done via Zoom on the assigned night. Again, test results are in, North Carolina Teacher Working Condition Survey data is in, and you've got to look at that. And the thing is, you may just want to find from one of your schools. You may say, okay, we'll use my school for an example, or you can just create, you create data. It doesn't matter to me, but you've got to realize that there's problems. There's problems with the North Carolina Teacher Working Condition Survey. There's some weaknesses with the North Carolina report card data. There's weaknesses with advanced ed, etc. Your job is to, as you analyze all of this stuff, how does it fit under your assigned category? And you've got to present a plan, an action plan for improvement. Now, wrap your heads around that. And then Dr. Revis, at some point, you'll let me know when you're ready to have time in the class to take this to the next step. Okay? Now, are there, I've got to find where, get you back in. Give me a second. I'm trying to find you. I'm trying to show video panel. I've got to find you again. Dr. Revis, talk to him for a minute. I've lost my I've lost something.
Okay, I sure will. So guys, as you see through these assignments, you can't wait until week 11 to do that last assignment. We're going to have to start working on that a couple weeks in advance, 3 weeks probably in advance is what I would guess. And all the while you're doing these weekly assignments, you still got to do the evidence work, your CAP and your PSYOP evidence work. So it is a lot. And let me just remind you again, if you want me to review your work before you turn it in to Dr. Stedman, I will be glad to do that. I will try my best to turn that around to you within 24 hours. But so you'll have to plan for that lead time. So I will be happy to do that if you wish.
Okay, but I felt like this time was important so that I could go over each of the assignments, and that gives you some thinking. Before I go any further, do you have any questions? I don't want to spend a lot of time, but do you have any questions that you really need answers to now? Or you can reach out to me individually if there's a particular assignment that you need, to know something more about yourself. My whole thing was you need to go ahead and put a plan together with your Zoom teams so that you can map it out, who's going to be in charge of what, when you're going to do it, and get your schedule together because of the short turnaround, in what we've got to do. Okay. So I just felt like that it was important to do that.
And we don't have any questions in the chat bar either, Dr. Stedman.
Yeah, they're an AG group. That's why. Let's see. Okay, let me review. Last week I went over everything for the CAP. You know what is due this week. CAP task 1 is due. And again, the work that has come in is excellent work. Is there anybody that has a particular question about CAP task 1 that's due this week? Again, call me if you need to. Some have called me, some have reached out. It's okay to call me. Just I can probably solve it in less than a minute if you have a question about something. Dr. Revis is available, as she knows how to answer these questions as well with this. So reach out to her if you need to. Who has had a chance to move forward with task 2 and begin looking at task 2 based on the information that I gave you last week? Okay, good. Does the information, let me ask this, has the information that I've given you, is that guiding you and leading you in the right way? So you've got what you need then. Okay. I'm not going to even go there because I think we went over that thoroughly last week. And what I would ask you to do, call me if you get bogged down in an area and you don't know the next step to move. And Antonio and I talked a couple of times after class last week. And after I talked with him, he sent me something to look at, and that's all it took. I haven't heard any more from Antonio since then. So it got him, on the right track. So it's okay if you feel like that you're at a place that you just need, you just need that little push. Dr. Revis, we didn't get a chance last week to do some things that we had planned So if it's okay with you, I'm going to, while I'm looking for something, I'm going to let you talk with them for a few minutes about the role of the principal and what makes a good principal. Do you still need for me to bring that up? Okay, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
Do you
Or,
need me to
or I
bring
can
that
share.
up? You want me to-
Yes, if you
or-
can bring it up, or I can share my screen, whichever.
Well, if you can share, you could go ahead and share and then just unshare
Okay.
it there. While you're doing that, I'm getting ready because I need to go over something else with them while you're doing that, okay?
Okay. So the first thing I just wanted to remind you about would be the powers and duties of a principal. And this comes from your general statutes, 115C, 288. And I know, guys, that you probably in 603, you went over these. So it's kind of woven back in your work again this semester. And you can't forget the powers and duties of a principal. I've done many things in public education: classroom teacher, assistant principal, a curriculum director, and then assistant superintendent for curriculum. Never been a superintendent, however, but I will tell you that the power a principal has is huge. Is huge. You are the only person in public education who can grade and classify students, and you do that, of course, very carefully and considering many factors. Make accurate reports to the superintendent and local board. Guys, you're never going to get through your to-do list. I promise you that. You will never finish a to-do list as a principal. You will never finish your to-do list as an assistant principal. But when your supervisor, particularly your superintendent or central office supervisor, ask you for some information, that needs to go to the top of the list. Just like Dr. Stedman talked about early on in the class. You need to be very expedient on getting those reports to your superintendent. They will always go to your superintendent. I don't know that you would ever, as a principal, send something to the local board directly, but the superintendent will send that on to the local board. But when your supervisor asks you for anything, that has to be at the top of your list.
Dr. Revis, I'm sure that they should have learned this in 603, but did you know that failure to turn in some reports, that DPI will cause the superintendent not to be able to get his check?
That is very true.
Do you want to be the one that stands in the way of the superintendent not getting his or her check?
That is a no. Of course, you know, one of the biggest things we have to do, particularly in this age of accountability, is we as principals have to work to improve instruction. And I always focus very heavily on that. That's my passion. I really think if we focus really heavily in instruction and instructional practices, a lot of the other things will take care of themselves in the school. Of course, we're also, we have to also evoke community spirit, conduct fire drills. You know, you have to conduct one fire drill at the beginning, first week of school, and one every month thereafter. Inspect for fire hazards. You have to inspect your building twice a month. Discipline students, of course, that falls on you. And whether you have an assistant principal or not, bottom line is it falls on your shoulders. And to assign duties to teachers. Guys, let me tell you that these duty rosters that are made in schools, there's a purpose for that. We have to make sure we have enough staff on duty when we have X number of students out in the hallways, out in the cafeterias, out on the playground. We always have to have that strong adult to student ratio of supervision. If you don't, you are going to have a problem. If a child gets hurt or lost or whatever. To protect school property, we have a responsibility to protect the property that is entrusted to you. And so if you are in a high school and you allow students to go in the gym and tear up your locker rooms, that's a problem. And guess whose problem it's going to be? It's going to be your problem. That's who the superintendent's coming to. Superintendent will not come to that PE teacher or coach. The superintendent will come to you. You know that you're required under law to report certain acts to law enforcement and to the superintendent. And of course, those are those acts of assault or of weapons and all those kinds of things. You already know that. To make available budgets and school improvement plans, those are public documents. We don't hold anything to our vest anymore. So we make budgeting decisions. Hopefully, you will make them align to your school improvement plan, and that school improvement plan those public meeting teams or public meetings, and everything is very transparent. To evaluate employees and develop action plans. Transfer student records. We don't hold student records. We transfer student records in a timely manner. And to sign driving eligibility certificates and to notify DMV of certain things happen with students. And to establish a school improvement team. I get tired when I just read that list. My first principalship was a small elementary school. Dr. Stedman, we had one grade level, one teacher per grade level, small. But guess what? It was me and the front office administrative assistant, and we had to do all these things. Now, when you get to a bigger school, I then moved to a high school and had 2 assistant principals, 900 plus students. Some of these things you will delegate to others.
Right.
Delegating doesn't mean that you're no longer responsible. You are responsible as the principal for all of these things. And you have to hold people accountable. You can't do it all yourself. I promise you, you cannot. You have to learn to delegate, but you also have to hold people accountable so that you don't end up in the sling.
Right.
So changing gears just a little bit, excuse me, there's a good article in your reading in week 1 about what makes a good principal. And I'll just go over this very quickly. Do we have time to do that, or you want to move on?
No, you've got time. Go ahead.
What makes a good principal, and this is one person's perspective. The school is a family. I worked with a principal, and he told his high school staff, we are a family. We air our dirty laundry here. There is no question you cannot ask. But when we're out in public, we do not air our dirty laundry. And I've thought about that a whole lot. Do you know who is the biggest critic, or can be the biggest critic of public schools or of your school? Your teachers and staff. They get out in the grocery store and unknowingly somebody will ask them, how's it going? How's school? What's going on in school? And unknowingly they say something that would spin your school in a bad light. So we talk to our staffs about, we are going to always promote a positive image when we are talking outside of our school. We're the family, and we're going to air our dirty laundry here, but we never do it in public. As principals, we treat our teachers as professionals. That comes back to that servant leadership. We are not above teachers. We're all in this boat together. You are here, in my opinion, as a servant leader. I'm here to serve teachers and students and families. I'm here to support them in that instructional process. Instruction in your school must be data-driven. Excuse me, Dr. Stedman and Cannon. Must be data-driven. You have to look at that data. You've done that every time you've been doing evidence work in this program. You always start with talking and disaggregating and analyzing your data. That's where you start. You have to remain student-centered. Always. We're doing what's best for children, every child individually. And it's hard to think about treating children as individuals, but we have to, because every child comes to us with their own set of experiences and their own set of circumstances. And we reach out to our families. We make our school welcoming, a welcome place for families. So many of our parents nowadays were children of poverty when they were in school and may not have had good experiences at school. School may not be a comfortable place for them. And we have to remember that. Our bilingual parents particularly. School is a strange place to them. So we have to make sure we are reaching out and welcoming them as our partner in their child's education. You have to have a lot of energy, and that goes without saying. You saw the previous slide of everything you have to do and more. But I encourage you to go into that principalship understanding that you cannot be superhuman. You'll burn yourself out. You have to surround yourself with strong people and then delegate and hold them accountable. And that's key. I think that's one of the hardest things that new principals have to learn is you can let go, but you hold those people accountable. We promote our school spirit and collaborative teamwork. And there comes in your PLCs that you've been working with and all throughout this program. And we develop leaders. You know what? I want to surround myself with people who are smarter than I am. A lot of people won't do that, though. They will be the smartest person in the room. I want to surround myself with people who can complement my areas of weakness or my areas for growth.
Me too.
And you're going to do a lot of that self-assessment. And remember, our areas of strength can also become our areas of weakness if carried to the extreme. So always keep that in mind, because you're going to be doing a lot of reflection in this class. And I'm really glad to see that we do this so that you can self-assess your areas of strength and your areas for growth. And we develop other leaders. I will tell you, there is nothing more rewarding than to see someone that you worked with and you mentored grow and get promoted and become principal and assistant principal or assistant superintendent. That is very rewarding, or it should be. And again, it comes back to having that really good help. And this is not on here, but I'll say this, in my opinion, one of the most important things we do is we hire the best people we can for those classroom positions, those teachers. That's one of your most important jobs. Don't hire a warm body. Put a substitute in until you can find that highly effective teacher that you know is going to give 150% every day to their students.
Right.
So take your time in that hiring process. Make it a collaborative process. But you have the final say, of course. Getting input doesn't mean that people get their way. They have their say, but it doesn't mean they get their way. But give them the parameters and go into those team interviews, right up front and very transparent. Let them know that you want their input, but you would have to make that final recommendation and decision. So being a principal is a tough job. It's the toughest job in public education, but it's one of the most rewarding jobs as well.
Thank you, Dr. Revis. If you'll stop sharing, Dr. Revis, and then I need to pull one more thing up. And if you'll go under week 2, there is also a document under week 2 that that talks about the pros and cons of being a school principal. Make sure that you read that this week, and then I plan to actually let me pull this up. I plan for us to talk about that next week. This is what I wanted to bring up. Diane, did you get your question answered, or do I still need to show you that information before we leave?
No, you're fine.
Okay, you got it now? I'm sorry. Okay. Make sure that you pull up and review this before you submit any of your final work on the CAP. Now, our goal is you want to be accomplished. This is what the evaluators are going to be looking at. This is what you must have to be considered for accomplished work on task 1 of the CAP. Let's look at it. We talked about this last week. Your climate analysis demonstrates collaboration with others in addition to examination of the teacher working conditions survey or other data source to analyze data related to empowerment, leadership, facilities, resources, and time. Those are the 5 areas. But the climate analysis demonstrates. If it demonstrates, that means it shows. We should be able to see something. Notice this connecting word, and. That's not all. And they clearly must see a needs assessment. Needs assessment clearly references data analysis. The process of collaboration to develop the needs assessment is delineated and includes descriptions of working through issues of discord, inclusions of diverse opinions, and steps toward achieving consensus. Recommendations based on identified needs include strategies that improve the school environment for teaching and learning with attention paid to issues of diversity and equity. Now, all of this must clearly, notice what I said, clearly be embedded in task 1. That is what your evaluator is going to look at. Now, you can write a good document and you can leave one of those areas out, and it's not going to have, you will not have accomplished work. So what I would do with all of these, and I'll make it a point next week to go to task 2 and just remind you of that. Go back and make your own checklist and just say, yes, I feel good about that. Yes, I've got that included in there. Yes, I've got that included, because guess what? That's what your evaluator is going to do. They have it, it's laid out beside them. And that as they're reading, they check it off. And if they see one thing that's not there, then they have to automatically go back to the proficient level. So make sure that you are aligning, you have your own checkoff system as you are completing your work. If everybody, and Antonio, I'm glad you were able to join us for a few minutes. Everybody just unmute yourself for the next few minutes and let's just talk in closing. Ask us questions. Tell me how you feeling. Tell me, anything. Now's your time just to kind of reach out to us if you want to, and we can talk about anything at this point. I know we say a lot, we have to rush it because there's so much to cover. So I don't want to ever leave a class with you having a question that we've not answered. It'll slow down a little bit on the delivery part, but I felt like between last week and this week, I had no choice, or we had no choice but to push it at you so that you would have what you needed to be able to move forward. And then after this week, we're going to be able to slow down and begin to spend more time on what you're doing and talk about some of these things that you're getting. So there'll be some good dialogue, but we've got that over with. I think we've sprinted and now we can slow down a little bit.
Dr. Seven, I have a question, but
Okay,
it's
Sarah.
it's pertaining to MyCap. So could you answer that for me later? I don't know if I need to ask it in front of everybody. I don't know.
Unless if you don't care, they may have the same question.
Okay. Well, my question is concerning prompt 2 when I'm doing my needs analysis and I'm trying to put that together, where I'm looking at my targets for the recommendations. So what do I need to have a need in all 5 areas? No, and Antonio and I had that same discussion. However, Sarah, I probably would look at, even unless it's just off the top, because here's my problem. Like my school it's showing 90% and above for everything except for like time, like three subsets under time and 2 under the leadership. Everything else is 90 or over.
But you know what I would say in my narrative work, I would say, our most recent teacher working conditions survey, blah, 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 blah. And I would say in the area of this, that while everything is good, we have a 90% proficiency our goal is that we want to increase that proficiency to 100% or 98%. So I would even though it's a positive thing, I would still look at maybe think of a way that you could take the next incremental step with it and look at it as it's not a negative, it's a positive thing. So I probably would not just leave it blank. I would still, it's just like with your academically gifted child. They may score in the 99th percentile, but sometimes when we put all of our focus on the child that's not at the 99th percentile and we neglect them, they actually as a subgroup can cause your test scores to go backwards because they're at a stalemate and they're not helping your school grow. Even
So when
though
I try to
they're-
write a goal as 90, maybe not put such a
You don't-
quantifier there with it as much as let's show growth in the areas.
show growth in the area, yeah.
Okay.
I would say something, even though because it's a positive thing, but I would still say that even though we're here, we still have some area that we can grow in, and we will continue to do the good things that we're doing. And think about it's just that one that one thing that could actually take it to the next level, and just be creative with that. Good question though, Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Other questions? Okay, guys, you're going to do well. I know you are. And again, the work that's come into me so far on task one, and I've cleared some task ones already. You followed my directions clearly from last week, and I'm very, very pleased with what, if you do that, systematically throughout, you're going to be fine with this. We'll get through this with no problems, no hiccups. Call me if you need me. I am available. And again, remember, if for some reason I don't answer the phone, just tell me who you are and just say, Dr. Stem, when you get a chance, call me back at this number and leave me a number. And I promise you, I'll call you back just as soon as I step away from whatever I'm doing. The next couple of days are pretty open for me. Even this weekend, I'm going to be gone this weekend, but my phone will be with me. I'll have my computer with me. It's not going to bother me. My wife's used to it. She knows that I've got to attend to my students. So she's good about that as well. So please reach out to me. Dr. Revis, anything before we close out about their internship work? Anything oh, I will tell you, I went back and I checked TaskStream, and every one of you are right where you need to be. There's nothing showing in TaskStream that you have not completed for 601 all the way up through 603. So we're right where we need to be. However, I could not see their competency folio work. Only you can see that, Dr. Revis. So I have not been able to review that.
I will try to go in and look and just take a look and see where you are on your competency folio. After you complete the CAP, though, I'm going to really push you to go ahead and add in those evidences or artifacts from your CAP, so you can begin on that final round of 21 competencies. You've been working probably on your internship hours. Some of you probably started as the semester ended, or maybe a little before. And so just keep up with your time, take those advantage of those leadership opportunities with all of these end of school kinds of things that are going on. In summer school is a good time for you to get in some leadership opportunities. So if you have any questions about would this count for my internship, shoot me an email. I posted that again in the chat box, my email and my phone number.
Okay, Antonio, make sure you get with someone in your Zoom group, so that I talked about Zoom Teams at the beginning and some of those responsibilities. So get with someone about that, even though it's recorded, And so that you'll be on track with that. And if somebody would reach out to India and their group, reach out to India and make sure she knows as well, because there's going to have to be a quick turnaround with all of you getting together with your Zoom teams. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Again, I'm available if you need me. Have a good evening, a good holiday weekend. I know you'll be working, but have a good weekend anyway. And I will see you next Tuesday. Okay.
Good
Bye, everybody.
night.
Good night, everybody.